Here's how you can use the 80-20 principle in investing so you get the maximum results with a minimum amount of effort. I have started to invest my money into the stock market 10 years ago, and now this built up to a multiple six-figure net worth. But it took me a huge amount of time to research, to get over the hurdle of starting. It caused some headache and some pressure, wondering, am I doing everything right? Is there something better? And it also cost me money in several different ways. So to optimize all those different aspects of investing, we can use the 80-20 principle. And to be honest, in the beginning, I wish I had known about this principle and how to use it in investing, because it would have saved me time and effort. So here are a few thoughts so you can have it easier. Just a quick info, this video is the third part of a series of how to 80-20 your money. In case you haven't seen the first videos yet and you are not familiar with the 80-20 principle, I will explain it right now. If you already know about it, then feel free to skip this section. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Sophia, a doctor from Germany, and I love to talk about money and building wealth. The 80-20 principle, also known as the Pareto Principle because it was first described by Pareto, states that 20% of our effort is responsible for 80% of our results. In the first two videos, I used health and relationships as an example. Today, I will use the original work of Pareto. In the 19th century, when he lived, he studied the wealth distribution in society. And he discovered that 80% of the land of Italy belonged to only 20% of Italy's population. And he found that so interesting that he extended his research and he found the same or similar distributions in other economic fields as well, like income. 20% of the population received roughly 80% of the total income, and not just in Italy, but in other countries as well. And also in business. Within a business, a small percentage of products, customers, and business activities drives the majority of the profit of the revenue or the outcome of the business. And knowing this, businesses obviously started to use it when deciding who to market to, how to allocate their resources, and also how to develop their products. And for sure, this is one of the reasons why the Pareto Principle became so popular. And then this concept of optimizing in the end spread it to other areas of life as well, like productivity and studying and also health and even relationships. So now let's take a look at how we can use the 80-20 principle in investing right after I ask you to subscribe to this channel. If you want to learn more about building wealth and money mindset and all things money, it costs you nothing and it helps me out tremendously, so thank you. And the first thing we can look at are investment products. So you will find a ton of different things to invest in out there. We want to pick the investment products that have a good return while at the same time a decent risk profile. So we want to pick the 20% of investments that have the highest potential of growth and of profit. And if you want, the lowest potential of, us losing everything. Because we could take our money into the casino and might even win something, but the chances that we go out there with less than we came in, or even zero, are actually not that slim. Or watches. You can buy a watch for $5,000 and then hope it will be worth more later, but it's just not reliably predictable if it's going to be a popular one or not. So what we can do is we can concentrate on the investments that make the most sense historically. And I would say the 20% of investments that check all those boxes are stocks, bonds, and real estate, and maybe also commodities. And then you need to decide which of the investment products is going to be how big of a piece. That is called your asset allocation. If you only pick one, that's obviously going to be the biggest one. But if you pick more than one, like 2 or 3 or more, then you decide on how to allocate them. And yes, you can still play around with other assets if you want to, like crypto. But I would see that as an additional one, so not the 80-20 part. Because you want to get the most out of your money with the least amount of effort. And within the investment product, we can go one level of 80-20 deeper. Let's take stocks. We can decide on what kind of stocks and also what kind of strategy. You can pick single stocks that just will require time and effort to research them. Or you can pick them just based on your gut, but then you're increasing the risk. So that's not what I would recommend. Or instead, you can just pick a fund. A fund with a wide diversification. And diversification means that we don't concentrate on just one company, but on several companies in different sectors and also in different countries. And by doing that, we lower the risk, because now if one company goes bankrupt, we don't really care because it doesn't affect the fund and all the other companies. And when it comes to real estate, you can buy a property as investment yourself. That again requires heavy research and also a high amount of capital. You can absolutely do that, it's your decision. It's not what I wanted to do, that's because I went with a REIT instead. A REIT is a real estate investment trust. So I basically buy shares from a company that invests into real estate. And by that, I still have the asset class of real estate represented in my portfolio without the hurdle of doing it all myself. By the way, I have a weekly newsletter completely for free where I share insights on investing and also money mindset and strategies around personal finance. If you want to sign up, there's a link down below and you can cancel anytime. And now we get back to how to decide on the size of the pieces in our portfolio. And that aspect is our risk tolerance. Because before we start investing, we want to determine how much risk we are going to tolerate. And there for sure are different ways to totally overcomplicate this, but in the end there's only a few factors, basically our 20%, that make 80% of our risk tolerance. And the first one is time horizon. When you have a time horizon of more than 20 years to invest, then you can take high risk. If you have less than 10 years to invest your money in, then you should take lower risk. That was factor number one. Factor number two, financial goals. If your goal is to build wealth, then you should take high risk, because high risk, higher potential return. But if you already built a lot of wealth because you've been working for a long time and saved up a lot, or you're young and you had an exit with a big chunk of money, or anything in between, then you want to preserve your wealth, and then it's better to take low risk. And the third factor is how you personally deal with risk. If for you seeing red numbers is totally okay, then you can take high risk. If seeing red numbers completely freaks you out, then don't do it. Take low risk. And if you don't know, you can just start small, then see how you react, and then level up later. So for me, for example, I have a time horizon of longer than 20 years, so high risk. I'm in my wealth building phase, also high risk. And seeing red numbers for me is totally fine, again high risk, and that's why my portfolio is basically 90%, maybe even more of that, stocks and some real estate. If this is helping you so far, would love if you could drop a like. Thank you. My biggest investment mistake so far was a kind of a retirement fund. It was this special retirement product from a bank. So some part of it had a fixed interest rate and another part had a variable interest rate, which I could decide on, and it sounded all very good in the beginning. Until I actually read the contract and I found out about the cost. It was 5% of the whole sum I was about to invest in it. And then there was the option of investing something additionally to the amount that was initially planned. And I didn't want to get ahead of myself, so I picked a minimum that I was sure I was able to invest in. And then I thought, when I earn more or I find some more savings potential, I can just stack it up. And this stacking up cost 4%. 4% just to put more money into the investment. I mean, how crazy is that? So the moral of the story, cost optimization is the next in our 80-20 list. And don't get me wrong, there's always going to be some type of costs when investing. We should just aim to keep the costs as low as possible, always and everywhere. Because costs diminish our return, and this can cost us tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So looking at the costs applies to when you pick a broker. Take the one with the lowest cost of orders and also with no maintenance cost, if it's still as convenient for you as it needs to be, so you'll use it. And when picking an investment strategy, really take a close look at the costs. And instead of, for example, going for a mutual fund that costs up to 2% per year and other hidden costs, just choose a low-cost index fund instead. So we want to focus on the 20% of investment opportunities that offers us the lowest costs. And we can also use 80-20 when it comes to learning about investing. You will find hundreds of thousands of books about investment advice and also YouTube videos and courses. And it can be hard and time consuming to find out who to trust. So we want to pick the 20% of let me call it content, that gives us the 80% of results we want. And the way I would say we can do that is by picking the books from investors, from successful investors, to learn the basics and beyond the basics and their investment strategy, because we already know that it worked. Maybe don't just read one, but a handful to get different perspectives. But then just pick one, the one that you trust the most, and then stick with it. At least that's what I did. I'm planning a dedicated video about my investment strategy. It's from a book that unfortunately is only available in German, so stay tuned. Subscribe if you aren't already. I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.